Nate Strong, thank you so much for joining me on the Cook Stable podcast today. It's really a pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited to personally learn from you, but then also to have my audience be able to glean some wisdom from your entrepreneurial journey. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I would love to start off, as I do every episode, with just like a brief introduction of who you are, where you come from, what's your career journey been like to this
Yeah.
point, and what are you up to now?
Yeah, it's great questions. All right. So, um, I'm Nate Strong. I um, was born and raised in suburban DC area, so Maryland, Montgomery County, Maryland. I came out to Seattle for college, and decided around my sophomore year that I wanted to stick around in Seattle. And so when I graduated, I worked in the Seattle tech startup scene for a bit and kind of jumped around a little bit in the tech startup scene. Got very involved in there's like this publication in Seattle called GeekWire, like went to all their events, like was really, really into the whole scene.
Nice.
Um, and then, uh, and then I met somebody, online, and, dating, obviously. And
Yes.
she was in, the University of Washington Medical School. That's her, UW cap, by the way. Go Dogs. And she was in med school at the time, and med school is followed by residency. So my dreams of living in Seattle for the rest of my life were a little bit dashed at that point because we had to move for her residency, which ended up being in Maine, which also meant that my Seattle startup career had to take a little bit of a pause there. And so I found a job. This was in 2018, before it was cool, a remote job for another startup in the ed tech space that was based in Oakland, California. So I spent a lot of time getting up at 2 a.m. and to get to the West Coast to, Oakland, California by noon so that I could be there for the week. And then, I spent a lot of time traveling across country and at all hours of whatever time on
Wow.
planes. Yeah. And then the pandemic hit, and then I just stopped traveling for a little bit. Um, and that was, always rough, but also great to just hang out at home. And then we moved back to Seattle. By that time, I had started working for another company in the professional services space. I was the VP of sales at that point. And I decided that, you know, at all of these companies, there was a through line
Mm.
that I had always come into these companies and had set up or optimized Salesforce, right? To serve my own purposes as a sales leader or a customer success leader. First, it was customer success. And I was coming to these Salesforce instances, and they were never set up to help track existing customers. They were only set up for sales. And I was
Mm.
like, well, that's what the whole point of a CRM is, not just for sales. It's so that you can track the life cycle of a customer. So I have a background, like I know databases, I know SQL, I know how to, operate. I know a lot about technology. So I would just go and be like, hey, can I have admin access to Salesforce? And I got it. Startups, right? And I started building out Salesforce for myself. Like, oh, let's build some flows. Let's all of a sudden let's write some code, right, to solve my problems. And finally, I was at my last job before I started this. I was the RevOps director and VP of sales, and I was building out all the things, all the automations, integrating with the finance team, everything like that. And I was like, you know what? I know this professional services game. I know Salesforce really well. Um, I'm going to go start my own Salesforce consulting company. So that's what I did. I jumped out on my own early 2022. And I thought when I started, I was like, I'm going to, and this is a really good lesson about starting your own company. I hear this a lot from other entrepreneurs. I started out, I was like, I'm going to focus on doing RevOps for tech companies. It's what I know, like recurring revenue tracking, like it's always, you got to track recurring revenue in Salesforce, blah, blah, blah. And all the tech companies use Salesforce. It's great. And it was 2022, which was the tech session. So not a great time to be marketing to tech companies. So I quickly pivoted, and actually I kind of accidentally pivoted because I was visiting a friend north of Spokane, Washington, who's a financial advisor, who's like, I was telling him starting this business, what I'm doing. He said, I don't use Salesforce, but a bunch of people that I know who are financial advisors do use Salesforce, and they probably need help. In fact, they've told me that they need help. And so he introduced me to a few people, and multiple of them became clients. And so all of a sudden, we were a financial advisor Salesforce consulting company. And so we've done that for a while. We've only added on a few other specialties in the process. Our next one that we added on was legal. So we work with a lot of law firms. And then we also added on field service. So specifically like roofing and cleaning, going to a home typically and like fixing something or cleaning something or
Mhm.
building something, like field service, plumbing, stuff like that. Um, those are our main areas, and occasionally we do tech stuff, and occasionally we do a little bit of health, like healthcare stuff. But those are our three main things. And really, what we've found is, niching down and becoming known as an expert, in the financial advising, banking, insurance world. We're experts there. We're really good at field service. We're really good at legal with Salesforce, and those expertises have allowed us to grow quite quickly. Um, and so now we have about 70 people throughout the Americas. So South, Central, North America, that all we really do is implement and optimize Salesforce for those and various Salesforce products, adjacent products for those major areas of specialty that we work in. And that's what we do.
Wow.
Um, and sometimes some people are like, "Oh, that's really boring," but I like it and I find it very interesting, and it's crucial and critical to a lot, if not all, of our clients.
Mm.
So it's very important. So yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah, appreciate all that context. I'm really curious about before we jumped on the recording here, we were talking about sales just briefly, and you mentioned how you had come into, I guess, customer success initially, and then
Mm-hmm.
had come, become a VP of sales and that sort of thing. What was that journey like?
Mm.
Kind of out of school, coming into those environments. How did you choose? Like, how did you end up in customer success and sales roles right off
Yeah.
the top? Is that just how everyone does it, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I'm going to say this a lot, but I kind of fell into it. But I, uh, my first job out of college was started as a sales role, but then I learned very quickly that the easiest sales were to existing customers, right? So I
Mm.
took that on, and became, very close with a lot of our top producing customers, and they were some of the world's top brands that you've heard of out here in the Seattle area. And I just got very good at working with them and making sure that they got what they needed and making them successful. And then, they keep adding more. And so when I, you know, got really officially into like a true customer success role, it was the exact same role, just with more recurring revenue and metrics that tied to it. That's where I learned all the SaaS metrics and all about SaaS. Um, and so I, really, I started in customer success, and customer success specifically in a revenue owning role, right?
Mm.
Which a lot of customer success roles are not revenue owning, but I was decent at closing business. So I was okay at the time. Like I was fine with being in a closing role, right? So
Mhm.
I did that. I actually got better at closing business in my first customer success role. I had some great mentors at that company, who taught me how to sell better, like in a system, which was great. Um, then, did that, got, promoted along the way, became a director of customer success. And then I started being like, it'd be great to be like a CRO. But I was like, well, but the unfortunate thing is, if I'm a CRO, that probably means I have to have gone through the sales route first. And I was like, I don't know if I want
Mm.
to go do sales, right? Right. I kind of had this view. I was like, I don't think I want to do that. Well,
Except you were really good at sales at the time too, right? I mean, you
I
just
was
acknowledged that.
I was good at closing business with existing customers,
Got it.
right?
Okay. Okay.
Right. So this, uh, but also that company that I got promoted to director of customer success, we were marketing heavy, right?
Got it.
We were a marketing technology company. So we knew I learned all about the funnel. I got Marketo certified. I got Pardot certified. I got all the marketing tools I got certified in while I was there. So I
Got
learned a
it.
lot about the funnel, right? And a lot about, outbound, inbound sales, and then the actual sales process. And I ended up advising a lot of our bigger clients on how to optimize their funnel, oddly, just because if if our if their funnel was broken, our tool wouldn't look good. So
Sure.
I just had to be like, well, you got to fix your funnel. So I did a lot of that. And then I moved on to another director of customer success role because I had to go remote. And we were working through some things with sales, and it just was like basically the closings weren't happening like they should be. And I took a look at everything because I was on the customer success side. But I was like, okay, why are we not closing new business? And I looked and I was like, well, actually, it's not for lack of effort on the closing side. It's a pipeline problem. And that's where that theme, it's a pipeline problem, it became like a theme of my career, which is I would go into places and be like, people would be like, we just need to hire more salespeople to, and I'd be like, before we hire more salespeople, this might be a pipeline problem. And I think a lot of people confuse that. They don't realize that a sales problem is actually a pipeline problem, not a sales problem. Also, it could be both, but often they start with sales and really they should start with pipeline. So I recognized, I was like, this is a pipeline problem. And so accidentally, because I opened my mouth, my boss was the CEO at the time. He was like, well, why don't you just go build an outbound sales team? Because it's like, why don't we have an outbound sales team? That would fix our pipeline problem. He's like, well, why don't you build it? I was like, uh, okay. And so having never done that before, I built an outbound sales team and it worked.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, and I was also managing marketing and I was doing customer success. So it became natural for me to just take over sales. And then I was over all of them. And then I realized, oh, I actually like this process. I like the sales process
Yep.
and I like managing it. And so that's when I was like, okay, I think, I can go that VP of sales CRO route. And then when you get to be the owner of your own company, as you well know, Andrew, then you are the top salesperson, right? You
Right.
have to be, right? When you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, you start a company, that is your job, is
Yeah.
actually your main job is selling. And so that
100%.
is actually my main job now. Having 70 people is I still do a lot of the front end sales
Sure.
for our company and representing the brand, and do a lot of leadership things as well. But a lot of it is still sales. So
Yep.
yeah, so that's how I fell into it,
Yep.
right? So
Yep. That's
yeah.
fascinating. I mean, obviously, sales is like incredibly entrepreneurial in and of itself, right? Yeah, I see that across your story already. Do you feel like there were entrepreneurial rumblings, I guess if you would say, like earlier
Mm,
in life before you kind of had this journey of kind of coming to know what you were passionate about, good at,
yeah.
the sales funnel thing?
Yeah. Uh, yes. In fact, I once had a friend ask, um, he asked my wife this. It was like a icebreaker question at a thing. He asked my wife this. He's like, if you could do any other job besides being a doctor, what would you do? And and she said a marine biologist. And I said, oh, I know what I would do. He's like, I know what you would say. And I was like, well, but let me answer the question. He's like, whatever. I was like, I would do exactly what I'm doing, but I would have started it. I would have done it 5 years before.
Oh wow. Okay.
Um, and I stand by that, right?
Yeah.
Like, now, did I learn a lot of things by not doing that before I started this company? Absolutely.
Right.
But I have always known that I was going to start a company, and it was just a matter of when and did I have the right push over the ledge or the right circumstances. And basically, when we moved back to Seattle, everything just lined right up. And so
Mm,
that was the time, which is a little unfair because I feel like I should have, it shouldn't have lined up and I should have just taken the jump, right? But everything just kind of lined right up and it was time.
yeah.
So yes, I've always wanted to start my own company. And I think I behaved that way while I was working at other companies too. That's why I liked startups,
Right.
is because there was a complete lack of definition in startups, right? No structure, no, not no structure, but like, there's a lot of room to spot holes and plug those holes. And I enjoyed doing that because I liked kind of finding new ways to solve problems.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I've always had that drive for sure. So
What's your? I always love asking people about their family background related to this. Like, do you come from a family of business owners, entrepreneurs, people who started things, that type of thing?
not at all. No,
Okay.
my mom is a librarian and my dad is a pastor slash church historian.
Okay.
So no, not even one bit. Uh, but a lot of people thought I'd teach or maybe be a lawyer or whatever, but I was never interested in. I liked school, but I was never interested in doing a lot of school. If I'm honest. Um, and so entrepreneurial things always interested me, right? That
Yeah.
was always what I worked the hardest at. And so that is what I wanted to do. And that's what I did. So no, I do not. And like my grandparents were not entrepreneurs. Like nobody in my family, um, is an entrepreneur. Maybe my one uncle owned a business, but,
Okay.
so I guess there's that, but it really is not a family thing. So
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
hmm
It's cool. What about the entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurial journey? What is it that it appeals to you the most about it?
Mm. Um, It's a good question. What appeals to me? I think that in a lot of ways, no day is the same,
Hmm.
right? There's always a new thing happening. There's always a new process to be built, a new problem to be solved, a new employee to be hired, a new, right? Something new, and that
Sure.
is exciting. I probably get bored easily. I think a
Mm.
lot of entrepreneurs do. And so I think it's great for people who get bored easily to be entrepreneurs. So and so that's where I've really enjoyed it is being able to do something new each day. I think also, there's, you know, it's nice to not have a boss, right? Although I do have a boss and it's the, 100 or so clients that we have. So I guess I have 100 or so bosses,
Right.
but also I did choose to have those clients and everything like that. And so, but it is nice to be your own boss. There's a nice thing to that. I
Hmm.
think another thing that comes to mind, sorry, I'm riffing here, but, um, is I really like, and this is not just an entrepreneurial journey, this is more of a management or leadership journey. But one of the things that I really enjoy is um, having conversations like the one I did today with a really, top quality team member at Strong CRM who is growing and wants to grow more, and just talking about, okay, how can I help you achieve those goals right in your career? And that helps you achieve your life goals and your career goals and everything. It's all wrapped up, right? In one, in a lot of ways. And then watching those people succeed in that's really cool. So I love being able to do the team growth, the mentorship. That's another big piece. Not exclusive to entrepreneurship, but it's definitely a thing in entrepreneurship that you need to get good at, or else
Yeah.
you won't grow the right way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I can definitely resonate with some of those things, and the boredom thing definitely made me laugh because I I hate that I like get bored easily, but I definitely do, and that is a problem if you have a technical job behind a desk all day. You got to have something fresh.
It
Um,
can be, but also sometimes being an entrepreneur means you have to do the most boring
right.
and the worst job. So then you flipped on its head, right? So
Yeah,
yeah. So
you're right. You're right.
mhm.
Yeah, it's You get a little bit of everything for
You get a
sure.
little bit of everything, right? So,
Um, well, when I hear you, as I hear you talking about these things, I do hear that there's quite a bit of I don't know, self-awareness maybe is the right word. And I think as I talk to entrepreneurs who are further down the line than me, even, I tend to notice that is there's just a lot of self-awareness. And I actually had a conversation with a older entrepreneur today, actually, and he was yeah, giving me a little counsel, giving me a little guidance, saying, hey, you're going to learn a lot in the next couple of years as you go out on your own like this. And I've been doing it for about a year now, and continuing in that journey. And he was just like, you're going to find out, yeah, what you're good at, what you're not, if you really want to keep doing this, like all these things. And I've found that to be very true. And I find that to be true of others I talk to too. Is just they have a high degree of that. Another appeal of entrepreneurship, I think. What about you? What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned along the way,
mm,
related to your hard wiring, your gifts, your skills, just the way you approach life, through this
yeah,
journey?
yeah. Yes. So one thing that I've learned, but I always knew it, but I learned it the hard way, or maybe not the hard way. That's too aggressive. But like I learned it by being in this job is is that like most entrepreneurs, I have a tendency to overextend myself,
Mm,
right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, the oh yeah, I can do that is true because I'm good at creatively solving problems. But then if I say, oh yeah, I can do that to too many things, then
right.
I can't do them all at once, right? And so it has forced me to be better at delegating.
Mm,
So that's the first thing that I would be like, yeah, I am now, I said it a few times today, like, yeah, I just don't have the time this week to do that. So that's gonna be next week thing, right?
yep.
Or I can't do that and somebody else is gonna have to do it. Not perfect at delegating still, because you're still like, it's your baby, your business is your baby, but I'm better at it now. Um, I think I've learned a lot about well, I think I've really learned that, and this might be my vibe, and maybe this is not a way that other people run their businesses, but I really don't want to take myself too seriously,
Hmm.
right? Because we're all just people at the end of the day. We're all just trying to, um, ultimately do the same thing, which is, pro- well, maybe not exactly, but generally people, it's all maps back to I want to be able to provide for myself and my family, right?
Right.
And so, that's no different from me to you to anybody who works at my company to all my clients. Like we're all trying to do the same thing. And how do we, um, how do we, just don't take yourself too seriously, right? Don't, and adjacent to that, really, I've learned to, as much as I can, keep myself humble as possible, as humble as possible. Because where I've seen myself trip up, or really where I've learned and seen others trip up, is when their ego gets the best of them, right? So
Right.
my hope is that I can keep myself as humble as possible, no matter how big we get, no matter how, like just don't take myself too seriously. Like it's okay, right?
Hmm.
I'm just a human, just like everybody else, right? Which means I can fail like just like humans. I get tired like other humans, right? Like I overextend myself like other humans, right? Um, that's uh, that's been a big learning. Um, and then I think another big learning that I really try to hold to is around sunk cost fallacy. It's so easy, and I've seen a lot of people get wrapped up in this, to let things burn at you inside, like eat you up, because I shouldn't have given away that, whatever amount of money. And, we want to hold to commitments. We want to sign good contracts. But like what I've learned is, how do we, if something isn't working, how do we correct it and then move on? Right. How do we, and then learn from it. Right. But not dwell on it, not dwell on the past.
Mm,
That is huge because the past ultimately is a distraction for business,
mm-hmm,
right? And because we can only go forward and we can only change the future. We can't change the past. And really holding to that has been, and really, I'm learning from that and holding to that has been huge for, um, this last few years of running this company. So,
mm, mm,
and I think that's a hard one for a lot of entrepreneurs, and actually just a lot of people to to really grasp. And it was hard for me to learn, but you just have to be a little unemotional sometimes about uh your business and money and things like that inside your business, and that can be hard.
yeah,
So, but I think I've learned that sunk cost fallacy is a real thing, and it affects people every day, and it will burn you inside when it does not need to. You just let go. So, yeah.
makes sense. Okay. I want to ask a follow up on the delegation piece. I found that very interesting.
Mm,
You have a team of 70, which I guess I didn't realize walking into this call that it was actually 70 people. Um, but that obviously is that proof right there that you're able to delegate. You literally have a team of 70, so you've overcome that do it yourselfer, mentality on some level. Now you said that you're not always great at it still, but what's the key to that? Like what are some best practices when it comes to delegating that you picked up along the way? Other than just saying, "Oh, I just don't do it myself anymore." What are some ways that
yeah.
people practically get better at giving stuff up?
Yeah. I'm not good at this still. I will say you could have 70 people and you still be bad at delegating. Um, uh, I mean, the big thing is you got to hire good people,
Sure.
right? Because if you don't trust your people, you're not going to delegate to them, right?
Right.
But that's huge. Having great, and what I've learned on that one is having great talent acquisition is key. And we invested in that early, very
Mm,
early. We hired a really good, now our director of HR, and he's built a talent acquisition machine. And that's a huge thing is getting great talent.
yeah.
Because again, and our business is professional services. Everything's about the people, right? We got to execute right for clients every day. And that's about people and, and process and technology. But a lot of it is about people, right?
Right.
And so TA is a huge things for us. So acquiring, great talent that you can trust, that's the first thing. Um, uh, Setting up great metrics. And this is difficult when you grow at the rate that we grew,
Sure.
right?
Right.
Because you have to onboarding. How many people did we hire and onboard last year? It had to be over and above 40 just in 2025,
Unreal.
getting
Yeah.
the year,
Yeah.
right? That's just a lot of people to onboard and get in line with just an onslaught of policies,
Yep.
right? With a small team. And and then at the same time, you're kind of building those policies as you're onboarding them because you don't have the systems yet, right? And so that is where um establishing really good metrics, but not too many metrics, right? But metrics for success for each kind of bucket of roles is
Sure.
super helpful because then you can go back to people and say, hey, we delegated this to you. It didn't work out. And here's why. Or it did work out and here's why, right? Like that's the key is metrics for success for every role type. And you don't have to do it for every role, just every role type and then kind of track it across the org. Um, And then, and then the only other thing I'd say, because again, I'm not that great at this, but have like, I guess I'll say it this way, be able to listen to your good people
Mm,
because they'll tell you when to delegate, but you have to listen to them,
Okay.
right? So like my middle management and executive team, they know I'm not good at this. And I say this, right? I try to invite them to, but like they know to tell me, hey, you need to give that up. You need to let me have it, right? And just delegate it down and not just do it.
Yeah.
And, am I perfect at listening? No. But but they are, they have a license to say that, obviously. And
Mhm.
so I encourage them to tell me when I need to give things up and push me. And so you got to listen to your people, right?
Yeah.
So those good people that you've hired with great talent acquisition who have great metrics, right? It all
Yep.
works together.
Yep.
So,
That makes sense. That's cool. Um, I see some books behind you on your shelf.
mm,
I'm sure that you're a reader. Just
yes,
knowing that leaders are readers, and oftentimes a rise in business is preceded by a lot of good resources. And I'm always curious to ask business leaders that I have on this podcast about resources that they benefited from, some of their top books, podcasts, even consultants, peers, mentors. What would be some that you obviously that's a ton of categories and probably overwhelming, but
yes,
like what are some main influences that you've enjoyed over the years that you'd point others to?
yeah, totally. Well, so first of all, I would go back to that that marketing startup that I worked for here in Seattle.
Sure.
I had an amazing CEO there and an amazing VP of sales there
Mm,
who taught me almost everything I know about sales, right? And I might have been a little resistant to them at the time, but they really did teach me everything I know about sales.
mm,
And we had a lot of success because of it. It was a lot of fun. So I would attribute it a lot to that them there. I think that I'm really uh there are um there are a couple books that I've really read that resonate with me. I'm more old school, probably because I haven't had time lately to read a lot of books. So I'm going to harken back to books that are like older, right? But the one on the top that I reference all the time is that's right here is the Challenger Sale. That's
mm,
great for like, and basically to sum it up, it's like the best salespeople are good critical thinkers. Actually, they're not what you think they are. They're just good critical thinkers. They know how to challenge the customer and teach them something,
yeah.
and and that's how the best salespeople work, right? So that's a great one. I reference the ideal team player is a great one. Um, humble, hungry, and smart, right? That's a big thing uh, out of that book. The classic one is Thinking Fast and Slow, which is I think also somewhere over. Yep, it's right there. Um, about like basically it's cognitive biases, and that helps out with sales, but also just um, like general business decision making.
Mm,
And then one that's like okay that I generally like is also right over here, Radical Candor, which is there's a 4x4 that I'm going to mess up. That's like how do you be radically candid with your team in a way that's effective at communicating. So that's another one, kind of like the ideal team player, but how do you communicate well together?
mm,
Um, so those are some of the ones that I've really learned from and quote a lot. They're kind of old school, but I haven't been up and up on the latest. Another one that I think that I reference a lot, and this is old school. This is an old school book, but I like it's so true. And you might benefit from. You probably have read it, but it's the one, the E Myth. Have you read it?
Oh yeah, I've heard of
Um,
it. I've not. I've got a version of it on my shelf, but I've not
yeah.
completely read it.
Okay, so yeah, so the TLDR on that is basically you quit your job, you go do the thing that you love, right, as an entrepreneur, and you think that you're just going to do more of the things that you love, and then you have to invoice people and sell and do accounting. I guess for you that would be something that you love, but like you have to do all the operations of the business, and then you have to hire somebody to do the thing that you love because you got to do all the other stuff, and then you're managing that person, and then you got to hire more people. And so the myth is, this is what I tell all aspiring entrepreneurs, is the myth about being an entrepreneur is that you do more of what you love. In fact, you'll do way less of it, right? And that's basically what the E-Myth says, right? And so that's more of one for like early start entrepreneurs, people who are like, I, you know, I'm just tired of I just want to do more of this. And I'm like, well, don't be an entrepreneur, because that's the wrong way to go about it.
Right.
It's almost like there should be a companion book for like aspiring leaders, which is probably more relevant, which is like people who say, oh, I want to be a leader. And I want to be a manager. I thought this one before I was a manager. I thought I want to be a manager because I feel like I'm just going to pontificate from on high. You wouldn't say that, but like you feel like you're just going to be able to like sit back and make policies and let people follow them. And I'm like, guess what? That's not what being a leader is at all. Being a leader is dealing with the hardest problems every leader deals with harder problems than the person below them, right? So the person dealing with the hardest problems is the person who's top. This is how it should be. And then it cascades from there. So the more you go up in leadership, the less defined your role is going to be, and the harder the problems are that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to get parachuted into the projects that need a lot of help, and those are the ones that you help out as a leader. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a companion book that you need. I don't know what that book would be called, but there's the E-Myth, and then it's like the M-Myth, right? The manager myth, I feel like I
Yeah.
have that speech with a lot of people. Let's put it that way. So
Uh,
yeah. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, those are some great ones. Those are ones most of which I have not heard on the pod yet, and I've gotten a lot of good recommendations. So those are some I need to go looking into, especially in the season for me of looking at sales a little bit more closely. So that's awesome. Um, well, I think to kind of close out this kind of general entrepreneurship side of the conversation, you have given a lot of good advice, and a lot of, yeah, just lessons learned and different things. I always love to end with a question of, say you were in front of a group of hungry college students who wanted to go make a difference and wanted to go start something. They were not necessarily seeing themselves, wired for corporate life forever. Maybe they were like young Nate Strong, who knew he wanted to start a business someday. What would you tell them if you had
Mm,
30 minutes with them? What were some of the things you would harp on, even if they were repeats from what you've already said?
yeah. I mean, I've actually talked to an entrepreneurship class and given this speech before, but
There
I'll
you go.
truncate it. Uh, First thing I'd say is if you're in college and you want to be an entrepreneur, don't wait, do it now.
Mm,
Because guess what? Your expenses right now in college are the lowest they'll ever be in your life,
right.
right? And they will only go up from there. You'll either rent a bigger house or buy a house. You'll get married. You'll have kids. You'll blah, 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 all the life things, right? That's money. It's just more money, more money, more problems, right? Like it's like it really is. Like more things, more money. When you're in college, you're living on the cheap. You you can stay up all night, right? Like these are things I can't do anymore.
Right.
I have a kid. I go to bed at 9 o'clock because he wakes me up at 5 a.m., right? Like I can't stay up that late anymore. But when I was in college, I could. And I didn't do this because I was afraid. And, everybody talks, oh, go get a job after college. I have literally said, if you have an idea, and this will get to my next thing, but if you have an idea for a business that you want to do it now, do it early, right? Like figure it out. And if you fail, so what? That's fine. Go get it. You can go get a job. That's fine. You'll have a story to tell, right? About how you failed a business and why and what you learned. That's great.
Right.
But your expenses are the lowest they are right now. So that's the first thing. Second thing is your idea doesn't need to be that creative, right? Like, let's be real. What I do is like, yeah, we have our niches, right? But it's not like we do a great job, but we're not doing anything that people haven't done before, right?
Right.
maybe the combo of how we do and our niches are like unique, but like there are other Salesforce partners. I'm not, you know, this is part of also me not taking myself too seriously, right? Like it's, you don't need to have a wildly creative, inventive idea that's going to like revolutionize the world to start a business. You just need to figure out a way to do it better than most people, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the key, right? How do you do it better than most people and and operationalize it? And and so many businesses have started that way. I mean, we work with like, for example, we work with a lot of these field service businesses, plumbing, roofing, cleaning, HVAC. I know how to do a roof, right? Like I'm going to start a roofing company. Not me. I don't know how to do a roof, but like the people who start these roofing companies, they know I'm going to redo your roof. And then they hire people and then they build a roofing company, right? There's a lot of roofing companies, but there's, but they, but they just are doing it in a way that they like, in a way that's better than the next person, basically.
Hmm.
So I think that's another big thing that I tell them, right? And by the way, if you have a unique idea, great, right? But like, if you don't, that's also fine. um, and then you will invent cool things along the way by being in business, even if
Sure.
the like business is not the most uh unique thing. And then the uh the last thing I tell them, and this is kind of a repeat, is get good at sales, right? Because as you know, a lot of people think starting your own company means pontificating on high and inventing something brand new, and everybody's just going to fall over themselves and buy it from you. And the reality is that is not how 99.999% of businesses, probably more nines, do not start that way,
Right.
right? Uh, Even the ones that you think started that way, I mean, OpenAI lost money for how many years before they blew up, right? It was, I think, at least five, right? Uh, you know, Anthropic lost a lot of money before it blew up, right? And they rode a wave, right? And so most businesses do not just catch like wildfire because your idea is amazing. And even the ones that didn't actually do that. They spent years developing something and then they went live and then it blew up, right?
Yeah.
Very, 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 very few businesses don't follow that trajectory and like actually blew up. So you got to learn how to sell. You got to learn how to market. You got to learn how to get out there and, pound the pavement and actually win business, right? And that's going to be most of your job as you are starting the company. And whatever you do, whether it's car detailing or lawn care or tech stuff or accounting thing, like it does not matter. You got to go win clients. And that means you
Of
got
course.
to get good at sales. Uh, so those are the three things I typically tell
That's great.
aspiring entrepreneurial college students. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's so interesting to see how different guests answer it differently. And I think, I had another guest on recently who was big into go get a job first so that you can,
Mm,
you can gain experience. And I think that's a follow up I'd ask you just briefly here is, what about certain fields, are there certain fields that would be smart? And I
mm,
know, I guess I'm asking you this for two reasons. One, because it's come up in other interviews, but two, because I hear that as part of your story. I hear both sides of it for you. It's like there's one side that said, I wish I would have done it 5 years ago. I wish I would have done it at that time. I wish I would have known. But then there's the other part of you says, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Or maybe, I don't know. You have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but maybe there's parts of it that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not gotten that experience, right? So there's
mm,
that tension of, yeah, my expenses are low, but also my experience is low, depending on the industry that you're walking into. So
mhm.
how do you navigate a question like that from a young
Yeah.
person?
Yeah. Um, well, you're right. That is a contradiction kind of in what I'm saying. I think that it's very likely that if you start a business in college or right out of college, that may not be the final. But
Sure.
I do think you'll get a lot of experience from just trying, right?
Yeah.
Like just
Right.
literally filing the paperwork and going out there and trying and failing, and it'll, you know, it might fail, and that's okay, right? So so there's that. I think there is a benefit to energetic college students.
Yes.
Like, go now. Like, don't let people kill your dreams, right? Like, don't, like, go, right?
I love it. I love it.
So that's a little bit that and a little bit of me wishing that I did that.
Yeah.
However, could I have started and run this business in the way that I do now if I hadn't had some work experience, especially on the sales side? Probably not, right?
Mhm.
A lot of what I say, like, you know, is I have a lot of, I have a lot of sales experience. And so, it's at this point comes naturally to me. And some people ask me, like, how's that happen? I'm like, honestly, it's not innate. This is something that I've just learned by doing for
Right.
years and years and years and years. And so there's some of that, right? But I think you'll get that by trying to start a business and having to like
Right.
pound the pavement and make your own livelihood. You can get some of that. It just might be learning by doing rather than watching, right?
Yep.
So there's that. I think the types of jobs that help you uh, learn a lot, I'm actually not sure. I think a job that makes you work hard and um, give a crap, right? Like, or I guess I should say, be humble, hungry, and smart, right? Like, how can you learn how to do that? How can you learn how to operate that way, interact with other people in a really good way, right? Work hard, like care about it,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we do those things, right? That's what matters. So you could do that in almost any job, right?
Mm.
And that's really helpful. I will say that there are some things that you probably could learn that are helpful in overall running a business. Funnily enough, accounting is one of them. You don't need to be a good accountant to run a business, but you kind of need to know what you're doing. Just like bumble around, right? Like what's a credit and what's a debit,
Right.
and like how does a general ledger work? Like generally, right? That's helpful, right? Even when you're a solopreneur, you still got to do the books, right? So that is reasonably helpful. I think also this is going to sound ridiculous, but a a not super advanced, but an advanced level of Excel knowledge is probably going to help you out a lot. This is
Hmm.
going to sound like I think you should just get an accounting degree to start a business, and maybe I didn't, but these things are helpful. I think understanding Excel and how to like do a VLOOKUP and a pivot table is probably really helpful. Not
Hmm.
required, but it's going to help you a lot. Um, uh, And then, I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but like, I guess being able to uh, find out and piece together information when you don't know something, right? So like it's effectively critical thinking skills, but that's a big skill. So
Hmm.
that I would say you need as an entrepreneur. But yeah, I think accounting and Excel are like some hard skills. It's like, well, you probably should know how to do that, right? Well, and I guess I would say again, you don't need to be a lawyer to start a business, but listen to the lawyers, right? Because like the amount of contract negotiation that you have to do, especially in B2B sales, is actually reasonably high.
Right.
And so understanding what you're agreeing to with contracts is actually pretty helpful. Uh, because, you know, most master services agreements that I sign are 11 to 13 pages long. There's a lot of language in there. It can very much affect your relationship with a client or a vendor. And I think understanding a little bit of contracts and how they work in your state, or maybe not even your state, depending on governing law, that can be helpful. Those are kind of more practical things, though.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, no, that's the whole reason why I ended up getting an accounting degree in the first place. And then fast forward, it turned out that it clicked for me. But that was a big reason. It was like, hey, accounting
Mm-hmm.
is practical. Like why not just go get something that's super practical? So
Yep.
I would encourage anyone to do that. I think, between accounting and finance kind of together,
Yep.
sales and having a little bit of a operations process mind, like you can pretty much do anything, like it
Yeah.
seems like those three are kind of the main pillars, and
Yep.
some of it can't be taught, but accounting can be, it's like,
Counting can be
might as
taught.
well go get something like that. So.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yep.
Well, let's transition a little bit. I want to ask you about Salesforce and kind of what you're building with Strong CRM. And it may not just be about Salesforce either. I mean, I hear there's so many different threads we could pull on here. But I guess my first question is, what do you wish more people knew about what you do at Strong
Mm.
CRM?
Yeah. I wish that more people knew um, how the this is going to sound ridiculous, but how the software development life cycle works.
Hmm,
Because people know what we do, right? Like all I have to say is we're Salesforce partner. Oh, okay, cool. Right. That's not hard. And we focus on these specific industries. Cool. Like that kind of makes sense. But then what I wish people knew, because I have to explain it to most of our clients, is like, we're kind of building a mini software product.
right.
Not exactly, but we're kind of doing it, right? And there are things that we do that are just ingrained in me because I've worked in software for so long that I'm like, this is just how it goes. And that don't make sense to people, right? Like at all. They're like, why would you do it that way? Right. Uh like one of the things uh that we say is like one of the principles is like um, fail loudly, recover gracefully, right? In software, you want to fail loudly and recover gracefully, right?
Sure.
And people hate big red errors, right? But I love them. Not that I want big red errors to happen all the time, but if I like the worst error in the world is an error that I don't know happened. Silent
Yeah.
error. Because I
Yep.
can't die. I can't I can't find it. I can't reproduce it. And I have to be able to reproduce it to fix it. Right. And I had this recently where, some people were like, there's an error. And I was like, can you send me an error screen? They're like, I didn't get an error screen. And I'm like, well, then it's not an error, but, but it is right in that it's a silent error, right?
Hmm,
It's just like it's a skipping over of something that they want. And those are the hardest to diagnose. Those are the hardest to debug, right? Um, because those are, as I said, they're not really errors. They're more UX problems, and they're harder to find because we fail loudly and recover gracefully, right? And so people see big errors and they're like, oh my gosh, and they freak out. I'm like, hey, actually, that's a good thing. You found a bug, great, but it's this software. Bugs exist, and you know what? Since you found a big red error, I know how to fix it because like
right.
I can trace the error right there because it's big and red. So that, stuff like that I'm so used to
Sure.
that, and it comes naturally to me that that people don't, it doesn't come naturally to people, and that's okay. Right. So we explain that to a lot of our clients, right? Here's how it's going to work. Here's why we're going to ask you these questions. Sometimes they're going to sound like stupid questions, right? But that's intentional. We intentionally ask stupid questions because we want to hear what your reasoning behind this is,
For
right?
sure.
In a bigger way. So I think that would be the biggest thing is like we're building a mini software product. And so sometimes we have to do things that software teams would do that you'd never hear about other than you want this cool custom thing with Salesforce. Yeah, that's, we're going to write some code, right? And that means, you know, software, right?
Wow.
So there's that.
Yeah.
I also think I'd say this, like, I don't know if people need to know this about us or like in that they should already know. Um, and I'm not sure how big of a deal it is anymore, but like we use Claude all the time, right? Like we absolutely should be using Claude to write code, right?
Right.
Um, there is probably zero software engineers left in this world that do not use some sort of AI to write their code.
Hmm.
But the key is, trust me, I see AI make a lot of security mistakes, a lot of just general mistakes, a lot of architectural like inefficiencies all the time. And so I guess what I wish people knew about us, but I think people generally know this. I don't think most people are fooled, but like we know what we're doing, and that's why we can use those tools accurately. It's because we're able to catch those things,
Yep.
right? Um, and I have a really good, I won't tell the story, but I have a great story about like catching Claude before it made a big security mistake. And I was like, no, don't do that. Right. Just
Mm.
stop doing that. Right. So like, that is, that is, uh, I think people know that, but I hope that they really know that. So
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Great
Hmm.
answers. So when companies are going about designing a sales process, you know it end to end. Obviously, we've heard all about your experience, so far in this interview. What do you see most companies get wrong? Like, what's the main thing that you see?
So first of all, there is no silver bullet for sales. Zero. Not a technology. And by the way, I work in sales technology. Buying Salesforce isn't the silver bullet for your technology for your business. I think it really helps, but it's not a silver bullet. Um, uh, but there's not one technology that's a silver bullet. There's not one process that's a silver bullet. There's not one person that's a silver bullet. It is a combination of people, process, and technology working together to build a really good sales structure,
Sure.
right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, most often your problem is a pipeline problem, not necessarily a sales problem. Sometimes it's both. And your sales process could get better. I guarantee it. Always. Almost, no, every sales process could always get better.
Yeah.
But pipeline is usually the biggest problem, right? Because you have to create so much pipeline and then it funnels down. So I would say that those are your two biggest, or that like a pipeline problem is usually the diagnosis for like a sales problem before the actual like closing is.
Hmm.
Third is in a protracted sales cycle, like a sales cycle that takes longer, non-transactional, right? So like a transactional sales cycle is like show up, close the deal, right? So those still need help,
Hmm.
right? And in their own way, but like let's say your sales cycle is like longer than a day on average, right? If you are not checking in with your people, like as a sales leader, you're not checking in with your people and holding them accountable to deals progressing forward on a weekly basis,
Mm.
then you're probably doing something wrong. I'm very absolute about that. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, so do you have a weekly pipeline review? No. Okay. I can do a lot of things that are going to automate a lot of things, but until you have a weekly pipeline review, very little of it will be enforced,
Sure.
right? And this is the example. The weekly pipeline review is not the silver bullet, but it is an enforcement of other policies and other things and other strategies that you might want to build, right? So, and in fact, we do a daily pipeline review at Strong CRM, right? Because I want to know what's going on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then too many people get too lost in designing these super complex compensation plans. And the reality is make compensation plans simple
Sure.
because the simple ones that salespeople can understand quickly, one number, right? That is, you don't want salespeople to be thinking about how, all the complex ways to manipulate their comp plan. You want them to think about driving towards closing or
Mm,
generating business. Really, that's generating pipeline or closing. And that's oversimplifying it. There might be slight other things, but try to keep your sales compensation plans and metrics simple and easy to understand, because that too complex, too many numbers, whatever, they'll lose track of it, right? And they won't be able to understand it. And if they can't understand it, then they're not incentivized to go and do the thing that you want them to do, which is sell,
right.
right? Um, so, and then a tag on that is, why does anybody cap commission plans? I've never understood that. Uh, I mean, maybe there's a reason. I never say never, but like 9 times out of 10, you should not cap a commission plan. I see them and I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Right?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
just shooting yourself in the foot. I get that maybe there's a scenario where that might be valuable, but it's almost never valuable. So, so yeah. So those would be the main things that I'd say in terms of like a lot of the things that I see in terms of sales is, um, you know, have, good people process technology, have a weekly pipeline review to check in, have clear compensation plans and good
Mhm.
metrics, right? Um, and then and expectations, and then and by the way, that weekly pipeline review is a way that you can show that those metrics are being hit or not hit, right? And let me just say one other thing. So your compensation plan should be simple. You should also have KPIs to get there. That's a good point. So
Yeah.
like if your pipeline generation is failing, why is it failing? Well, it's failing because of some metric before then. So while that's not the compensation metric, that should be something that you track so you can go back to your people and be like, hey, typically pipeline, it's activity, right? You got to have that. You got to have the activity. You got to do the reach outs, right? And then you'll see pipeline fell off. Why did pipeline? Oh, you weren't reaching out to people. Okay, cool. You got to go, make sure you do 50 reach outs a day or 100 reach outs a day or whatever it is. Like that is how you could drive towards KPIs.
Mhm.
And have that all on a dashboard in your Salesforce. That's the key. One dashboard, you refresh every morning. Here's my metrics. Here's the things that I care about. KPIs and metrics that you're actually compensating on should all be in that one dashboard.
Mm,
That's how you do it.
it's
So
good. That's some ball knowledge right there, like the kids say these days, you know?
there you go. There you go. So
That's great. Wait, so I imagine that you have the conversation like semi-regularly. I'd love to get to know a little bit more of which clients, what companies tend to benefit most from your services. But do you talk to a bunch of clients who are looking to transition to Salesforce? Do you come into the
mhm.
process at that point? And if so, um, when do you say a company has reached the point where they've outgrown their basic CRM and they're ready to move to a
Yeah.
custom Salesforce?
Yeah. So we do both sides. We work with customers. We call them install customers, which are
Okay.
existing customers, or new logo customers, which are their new logo to Salesforce, new logo to us.
Okay.
And so basically, we look for new customers. We always look for a catalytic event, and so there's not a specific size or something that gets you there. There's a something that requires you to do something more than you're doing right now,
Mm,
right? And that catalytic event could be a lot of things. We just got acquired. We just got funding. We just hired 3 new people. What is it that that is currently not happening that you want to happen?
sure.
And and then what we look for is that a match for, you know, honestly spending a little more money. It's usually a little more money to get that thing. Where's the ROI? We hired 3 new people and now we need to track all their stuff the right way and like every metric along the way. Is that enough ROI to justify the implementation cost and the software cost? And typically hiring 3 more people is like, that's where, that's usually one that's like, yeah, of course. Right.
Totally.
So so it doesn't, there's not one answer, but we always look for some sort of catalytic event. And usually that catalytic event is growth oriented.
Hmm.
Um, like they're either growing or they're preparing to grow, or, they just grew and now they're dealing with a mess. Um, that's what we look to go for and clean up. So,
Hmm.
That's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. What you mentioned earlier, we were joking about how you can have a basic idea and just do it better than everyone else, and have a great business, right? What for you as you think about what you built with Strong CRM,
Mm,
what makes you stand out from your competitors, and for those clients that are considering working with multiple Salesforce partners or implementation partners, whatever you call yourself.
yeah. So okay, so what do we do better? Well, so first of all, we have a America's focus. So we work with people like you basically have to be in the Americas to work at Strong CRM. And so we're able to nearshore, right? Which is the term because it's all US time zones. It's all of our standard time zones is all of our people,
Sure.
right? Regardless of where they are. So that's a huge key is, you know, we're not fully US based. So it's a little bit less expensive than being full US because the US is just wildly expensive, just crazy. Uh, but we you don't sacrifice time zones. And I will say this, time zones are the biggest communication killer,
Mm,
right? Like maybe not the biggest one, but one of the biggest ones is like being able to just hop on a call with all of our people and having them available and online. We have core hours, like everybody, like that is amazing, right?
yeah.
And just communicating through Slack all day without actually huddling or doing a meet would be is really is very hard on communication, right? So that's the first one. Second one is our specialties, right? We've niched down into specific specialties that we've gotten really good at. So we know those industries pretty well, right? If you want to ask me, and people do, about the complexities of insurance commission calculations, I can drone on for about an hour about that. If you want to ask me about custodian integrations, like integrating Schwab or Fidelity into Salesforce for financial advisors, man, I could tell you stories. I know a lot about that, right? If you want to ask me about, on the legal side, if you want to ask me about um, specific uh, migrations from specific legal specific CRMs to Salesforce, we've probably done it. And I could tell you about how that migration is going to go, right? And like what the pitfalls are and all those things. Same for field service. There's specific field service tools that are very popular with smaller companies. And as they grow and outgrow it and they need to get Salesforce, then we know we've migrated a lot of people from a lot of different systems, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of what an area that we've excelled at. And then
Sure.
a third area that I think that really that we make our differentiation on is, and I say this a lot, is we eat our own dog food is what I say, right? We try to we're not just selling this to you and like just selling. We are a fully like our whole business is run on Salesforce end to end. That means our sales in Salesforce, our project management is in Salesforce, and our
Mm.
accounting is in Salesforce. So we
Wow.
use Salesforce, obviously core products for sales, we and marketing. We use Salesforce, an installed package called Mission Control for our project management, and we use an accounting package called Accounting Seed for our accounting, all within Salesforce. So all of my reports for across the business are in Salesforce.
Wow.
And then we use Slack and we have enterprise Slack. So I can use Slackbot, which is the AI tool right inside of Slack. Um, and I can ask it any questions about my business because it's fully integrated with Salesforce, right? So that is extremely helpful to do an end-to-end business inside of Salesforce. And so then I can actually talk to our customers and be like, yeah, I'm not just selling this to you. I'm actively doing this in my own
Mhm.
business. And
Right.
that resonates, right? Like that resonates a lot with customers. So those are the three areas that I think we really try to do uh, better
Sure.
than other firms. I mean, I think we also really, I mean, on more operationally, like we've really focused on culture. I mean, every metric says we pay really well. So like we were able to hire good people and retain good people, and that's a key piece of it too.
Hmm.
But I think those first three are really unique in the way that we operate, as opposed to other uh, consulting firms,
Yeah.
Salesforce partners. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Makes sense. How long does a typical engagement run from end to end? Maybe for the
yeah,
initial, I don't know. I mean, give me an idea of the different types of engagements, I guess, on a high
mm,
level. What can someone
yeah,
expect who's coming in and says, "Hey, I want to transition." How long does it
yeah.
take?
I mean, the classic consulting answer, it depends, right? It really
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
depend, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing a really quick Salesforce, go live or whatever, it could be a few
Right.
weeks,
Sure.
right? If you're doing a full rip and replace of a legal CRM and marketing system and experience management solution for a large law firm, that could be a year,
Yeah.
right? Uh, so it does depend on what you want. And the devil really is in the details on those. But yeah, I mean, I'd say typical engagements like 3 months long
Okay.
to get you, because nobody has, they're going to Salesforce. Nobody has just uh, a very simple thing that they want, right?
Mhm.
And we push the idea of like, look, this is Salesforce. What do you want? We can build it for you, most likely. And
Mhm.
so, now we have to be clear, like that increases scope and time. So it's very few engagements are actually a month long because most people come to Salesforce because they want some custom stuff. And so that's what takes a little longer.
Yeah.
So that is, yeah, that's, yeah. So 2 to 3 months, typical
Okay.
engagement. So yeah.
I guess I'm curious about what you said about the integrations that you're doing,
Mm.
and it'll lead into my next question about AI too. But first, I guess with accounting and with project management that you were mentioning for your own firm, is Salesforce trying to be an ERP as well on some level?
Um, I can't pretend to know Salesforce's product strategy, but there
Okay.
are certain products that get close,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So the one that we do implement is called Revenue Cloud. It is not an ERP, but it has like a ledger in it, right? It's very close. It is not an ERP though. There are uh, packages that you can install, pay for on top of Salesforce that are full ERPs. Like Certinia is the one that's kind of widely known, right?
Hmm.
Accounting Seat is not an ERP, but combined with other things that affect inside of Salesforce, it effectively becomes an ERP,
Sure.
right? So yeah, I mean, no, but yeah, I mean, effectively, we've created an ERP with a PSA tool. So we have
Mhm.
our sales tool, our PSA tool, and our accounting tool all inside of Salesforce. So we've effectively created an ERP in one, right? So
Do you find that you compete with ERPs out when you're talking to clients or whatever? Like, are you trying to convince them to get off of their ERP, or are you talking to them as they're talking to other ERP systems as well?
um, I don't think I've ever tried to convince somebody to move off of an ERP because,
Okay.
like, if you're on, let's say you're on NetSuite, right,
Right. Right.
which is kind of the classic mid-market ERP, uh, stay on NetSuite, right? It's good at what it does, right? Uh, I don't try to convince people to get off of ERPs because, yeah, again, like, there's only specific reasons why a full, um, end to end would work in Salesforce in that scenario. And typically NetSuite fills a specific role and it would be
Sure.
a whole thing to migrate. What I say when you're in NetSuite, I'm like, yeah, let's integrate, right? Let's just integrate, like, because that is super valuable, right? Integrating between your sales, your CRM, and your ERP, very, very helpful.
Right.
So that's what I do. There are some smaller kind of just GL tools that I have told people like, and it's usually here's where I tell people to move, like, hey, you might want to look at Salesforce, like accounting seat as an option, right? Somebody is on the desktop version of a small business general ledger tool. And I say, well, look, our integration options are not great,
Right.
for a
Right.
desktop tool. It just by it being on the desktop, it limits us.
Right.
So you could go to the online version, or you could check out and we can integrate. That's fine. Or we could check out uh, Accounting Seed, which is going to get you same features, probably more, but then it's going to be directly on platform. So that's where we'll have that conversation. But I
Yep.
don't usually like if somebody's on NetSuite, yeah, let's just integrate with that. I say
Okay.
that all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Are you familiar with the tool? I'm asking you some just questions that are coming up as we're talking about this, but I've had another recent conversation with a great guy on this podcast actually about Odoo, which is kind of becoming more the rage here in the States after being a bigger thing overseas, sounds like. What's your perspective on a tool like that? Because what I heard from that conversation, it was very fascinating, very helpful in many ways. Odoo claims to be an ERP, I think, but like, um, it has all the sales functionality too, I believe. So obviously more of a mass market or less customizable, I would assume. But what's your perspective on that?
yeah. So I mean, big ERPs have CRMs too,
Sure.
right? Like, and everybody, there's a lot of CRMs out there, I guess I'd say, right?
Right.
There's, there's only one Salesforce, you're right. And so I guess if a simple CRM works for you, then yeah, I'm not going to convince you to not to use Salesforce, right? Right. If all you need is just standard pipeline management, then go for it.
Yep.
Uh, but but the Odoo is quite customizable. It does require a lot more technical knowledge, I think, to get started.
Okay.
Uh, and then also it's, like Salesforce is the CRM, right? And then when you think about like all the AI functionality and everything that comes, already now standard inside of Salesforce, like it's pretty much unmatched, especially if you want to start adding on agentic capabilities inside of your CRM.
Hmm.
Right. That's just what it is. So all that say, we could say that about Odoo. We could say that about, any other number of CRMs that there are in this world. Um, but Salesforce is the enterprise tool. It is the agentic first tool, right? Platform, I guess I should say. It
Hmm.
has capabilities that are extensible to the ends of the earth. And there's a reason why almost all the Fortune 500 companies use
Sure.
Salesforce is because of enterprise security, enterprise scale, uh, manageability, CLI access, like all these things that are like, there's a reason why we build on that. Now,
Right.
what does that matter to a small business? Maybe not as much, uh, except that it is also the ecosystem around Salesforce is so big, right? There's so many packages, there's so many things that you can install and to further customize what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? And so because it's so widely used in the enterprise and widely used in the mid-market and widely used in the small business space, right? You can adapt it to what you need and there's an ecosystem around it.
Hmm.
So, again, if you just want a simple CRM, maybe Salesforce is right for you. But if you want anything beyond that with metrics on everything and reportability and everything, it's still the cream of the crop, right? So
Okay. Yeah. Um, Speaking of AI, you just mentioned it. You mentioned earlier about your Slack bot, which I think is really fascinating. Even just like asking questions about your business to the broader ecosystem or whatever you've got going on. What is the future of sales technology and systems in light of AI
yeah,
from your perspective?
yeah, yeah. So we get the occasional, well, I'm just gonna vibe code it and whatever, and that's fine, right? If that's what you want to do. But honestly, my response to that is like, if you're gonna vibe code a CRM, you are no longer in the insert whatever business you're in. Let's say you're a plumbing business and you decide you're going to vibe code your own CRM. Cool. You're not a plumber anymore. You're a vibe coded CRM business now. Did you know that?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Um, and the reason why is it's fun to vibe code. Trust me. I know. Like I use Claude and having written code before, you could write it with AI. man, it's fun, right? You feel like you're super powerful, right? Oh, it's so great. You can do all this stuff and da 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 da. But then somebody asks for a change, and guess who's responsible for that change? You,
Right.
right? The guy who just built all the stuff. Yeah, you're responsible for that change. And then you become a product manager, right?
Yeah.
And now you're just managing a software product, right? And you're dealing with bugs and everything that everybody else did, security holes and all the things that everybody dealt with. And did you save that much time? No, right? Because you had to vibe code. And really, do you save time at all? Probably not, because you had to build a whole CRM, right? Which Salesforce is already a CRM, right?
Right.
So that's, we're seeing a backlash to that right now already, right? Where people are like, oh, I can just vibe code this. And people are like, maybe not. And really what we're seeing, and I've had probably 3 conversations today about this. I gave a whole talk about it 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
I actually believe the advent of AI, conversational AI, LLMs, and specifically now MCP servers, which is going to sound really technical, but it's like the USB for LLMs, right? It allows you to plug any tool into your LLM and use it as context for your, not any tool that has an MCP server, use it as context for your LLM. Now that we have that, I actually think that people are rushing now, and I'm seeing this in our trends, right? People are coming to us saying, how can I get more data into Salesforce,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Because it's less tokens if it's in one place and Claude doesn't have to search around, right? It's easier to connect one system, right? And have it all connected in together. So this is actually, funnily enough, pushing more people, I'm seeing, into getting more of their data into one system,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? And so I actually think that this whole thing is now pushing more people to utilizing their CRMs more, getting better data, getting what's called unstructured data, not just, so CRM is classically structured data, like all the fields, right?
Right.
But unstructured data is like a call transcript, right?
Right.
Well, now we should just put all of those inside of our CRM and attach them to a customer, because now we can use an LLM to then evaluate, hey, is this deal at risk? Is this customer at risk? What's the sentiment? Da, 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 right? All the things that you want attached to a customer are now right there. So I actually am seeing a trend now towards more data in your CRM,
Wow.
right? More data in one spot, because because then it's more accessible by the LLM, easy, and then you can do really cool stuff with that. And then you can agentify it and all the other layers on top of it. But that is where I'm seeing things go, because people are realizing that they don't want to be in the vibe coded CRM business, right? They want to be in the plumbing business, not the
Right.
vibe coded CRM business. So
That
yeah,
that's such a good way to put it. I haven't ever heard anyone say it like that, but it makes so much sense. I mean, I feel like there's been the rush to be like, oh, I'm never going to pay for software again. I'm just going to create it all myself. But people don't think down the line about what that actually means for their life, you know? Like,
I've built software products. Let me tell you, like, this is what we do for a living. Trust me, you don't want to do it, right?
right.
Unless you're a software engineer and that's the business that you do, like
Right.
this is what we do, is we build customized Salesforce. But if you aren't a software company, you don't want to do this. Yeah, it feels easy. Again, it feels easy. It feels easy until and I've even gotten this way where, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I'll be like, it's actually addicting, right? It's it's like playing a really addicting video game. I was never really into video games, but I know they could be really addicting. Let's say you're playing and literally my wife is like, "Hey, Nate, we need to go." I'll be like, "Oh, hold on. Yes, just one more minute." And I'm like,
Right.
Cloud coding. Nate, we need to go. No, no, hold on. I just got to fix this one thing, and I'm not even kidding. And I realized just how much time I was spending
Right.
that I thought I was like saving, and I am saving time. I am saving time, right? But like that, I'm saving time because I know how to code, and now I can use AI to code for me. This is work that people who didn't know how to code are now doing, and it, yes, it theoretically saves, but it still takes a lot of time. You
Right.
still got to deploy to production. You still got to like bug fix. You got to still got to migrate data. These things take time. And does Claude help? Absolutely. But it is very addicting, and you feel like it's like you just spent 10 hours playing a video game. And I think it gives people that level of dopamine rush,
Wow.
actually, like when they're addicted to video games, right?
Wow.
It feels the same way to me, right? As what I've heard, it is that way. So I think um that's what's happening, is people felt that way, and now they're realizing, oh, that costs a lot of tokens. And actually, it took a lot of my time. And actually, the CRM that I vibe coded wasn't all that great. Like, um, and I'm not kidding you. Thousands of hours. I've heard people spend thousands of hours vibe coding a CRM that's basically the basic version of Salesforce with like a few features that they wanted, which, by the
Okay.
way, those few features on top of Salesforce would not have taken us thousands of hours to build. Right. So, yeah. So,
Well,
anyways.
and I think people just stepping back and looking at the costs more and more these days too, where I've heard the stories of, you mentioned this briefly at the end there, but it's like not only the time cost, but like now the tokens are starting to get real expensive. And by the time you finish up all that, it's just like, man, I should have paid somebody. Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I should have paid somebody who knows what they're
Yep.
doing.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's great perspective. I think people will find that valuable. What's next? What's next for Strong CRM as you look to the future?
Yeah. Next actually is really, really further niching down.
Okay.
I mean, we've learned that we're really good with these couple of niches that we have. And so it's almost like we want to create uh you know, even stronger, what we would call sub practices, right?
Mm.
How do we really build very detailed SOPs for those sub practices? How do we set specific leaders who've really shown in those sub practices? We have the knowledge, but really get like every time a plumbing company comes in or an HVAC company comes in, this is our plumbing playbook. And we're
Right.
starting to do this, right? We've already got some playbooks in place, but how can we really nail them down? I find, it's risky, but really getting into your niche and saying, we're really good at this means that everybody, you get known in that industry, and then everybody just comes to you and is like, oh, well, they know how to do legal for Salesforce. Yep. That's what we do. We do custom law firm Salesforce. That's what we do, right? Let's do
Yeah.
it. And so, I think that's a big, big piece, is really, now that we know our niches, really, really niching down on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be a big push for the rest of this year and probably into 2027, is really pushing that, and then pushing that publicly, like making sure our marketing matches that, right?
Right.
Shows off case studies and stories and things like that of successes that we've had in those industries. So yeah.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited to follow that journey. Last question I love to ask people. You've been a great guest. This has been such a fantastic interview. I love asking people at the end, as they look back and they look forward on their life. What are you most proud of as you look back? It could be in any area of life. And what are you most excited about as you look to the future? Um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably people say this a lot, but uh um obviously I'm proud of the business that I've built, right? And and how quickly we've grown, and how our reputation is strong, and it's been great. But obviously, I think the thing that you're the most proud of is my family, right? So like my 14 months old, well, I guess he's 16 months old, but he's adjusted down to 14 months old because he was born so early, son, and how he's growing, and you know and my wife, and I'm always proud of her, and how hard she works, and how she literally saves people's lives, and on a daily basis she is right now at work saving people's lives. um and Just my immediate family, my parents, my friends. I'm proud of the life that we've built. And that's
Mhm.
what I'm looking forward to in the future. And that's why I do what I do, right? Is for the people in the company and for my family, and that's and our clients. But I think that that's what we really, that's one of the biggest things that I'm proud of, and one of the biggest things I look forward to is more time with family, right?
Yeah.
Uh more time seeing my son grow up, right? Like I think about, I'm a big skier, right? When can I get him on skis and like teach him how to ski and ski with him, right? Those are things that I'm excited for in the future.
Mm.
So, not businessy, but I definitely think it's a thing that a lot of people, you know, almost everybody's got family, right? So
Right.
like that's the thing that drives a lot of people. So,
I
yeah.
resonate with that so much, Nate. That's great. I really appreciate your perspective. Appreciate your time today. What a great episode this is going to be, and yeah, just thankful that you say yes. So I will look forward to the next time
Absolutely.
we get to do this, and maybe follow the journey along and get a check in at 2 years from now, see where Strong
Yeah.
CRM's at. So
Sounds good. Sounds
okay,
good. Thanks, Andrew.
well, until next time.